Good morning, all, and a very warm welcome to the quarterly seminar series inaugurated by Internal Quality Assurance Cells, University of Calicut. It is with a great pleasure and honor that I introduce the distinguished figure in the realm of the higher education, Dr. K. Ramnarayan. With the career spanning over 4 decades within the esteemed Manipal group, Dr. Ramnarayan has left an indelible mark in the domains of academic leadership, curriculum development, and faculty empowerment. Dr. K. Ramnarayan was the 5th Vice Chancellor of Manipal Academy of Higher Education, MAHE, from 2010 to 2015. After completing his tenure as Vice Chancellor, he was Vice President for Faculty Development and Chairperson for the Manipal University, Jaipur, before taking up the responsibility of Pro-Chancellor, Sikkim Manipal University. In addition, he is the National Coordinator of DTH, Direct to Home Swayam Prabha, for Medicine Content Development. It is for sure that Dr. Ramnarayan brings a wealth of experience and expertise to our seminar today. During his period as a Vice Chancellor of MAHE, he was committed in enhancing academic processes and fostering a culture of excellence within the university. Under his leadership, initiatives such as SMILE program and leadership development workshops were launched, aimed at nurturing future leaders and empowering faculty members across various disciplines. He was instrumental in establishing of MU FAMER Leadership, International Institute for Interprofessional Education. He established the Manipal Center for Professional and Personal Development for the in-service training of academic and non-academic staff of the university. He has conducted pedagogic and personal effectiveness workshops for faculty in the Manipal group in Jaipur, Sikkim, Malacca, and Dubai. He played a critical role in leading the implementation of innovative programs such as Dr. TMA Pai endowment chairs and full-time PhD scholarships. He revamped the research incentive policy and established a portal for e-prints, serving as a repository for research publications. The establishment of the Centers of Excellence in Philosophy and Humanities and Natural Sciences, along with the inception of the Research Directorate in MAHE, were milestones during his tenure. He deeply involved in the renovation of Manipal Museum of Anatomy and Physiology projects. His relentless efforts get more visibility in MAHE's ranking for the university, which was known by getting first among the private deemed universities in India and 186th in position in Asia. Dr. Ramnarayan holds an MBBS degree from Stanley Medical College, Chennai, and an MD in pathology from Kasturba Medical College, Manipal. He also has a postgraduate diploma in higher education from the Indira Gandhi National Open University. He was one of the early recipients of the Educational Commission for Foreign Medical Graduates, which is a foreign faculty fellowship in basic sciences, which initiated him into the medical education in the USA. He was subsequently awarded the short-term exchange fellowship in academic leadership by the Foundation of the Advancement of International Medical Education and Research, USA. He also served as the first dean of the unique Malacca Manipal Twin Campus MBBS program in Malaysia. Over the course of the last 3 decades, he has organized more than 600 faculty development workshops, both national and international. He served as a member of the UGC Expert Committee to review regulations for deemed universities and private universities. He was the recipient of the Bloomberg UTV Award for Outstanding Contribution to Education. He has guided several PhD students and has over 100 research publications, most of them pertaining to higher education. He has been an international advisor for 6 successive editions of Underwood's textbook of pathology. As an academician to the core, he enjoys teaching and is passionate about people empowerment and mentoring. His comfort with ever-evolving methods of pedagogy is very outstanding. He constantly examines how teaching can be improved, how teachers can continue to hold the attention of students in a hyper-connected world, and how teachers can cause more learning to happen. In today's seminar of the theme Empowering Faculty on Research and Dissemination, Dr. Ramnarayan's insights and experiences proves invaluable on the topic, the vanishing art of lecturing. His relentless pursuit of excellence and commitment to faculty empowerment serves an inspiration to all of us to strive to elevate the standards of research and dissemination within our own academic community. So please join me in welcoming Dr. K. Ramnarayan to our quarterly seminar series as we embark on the journey of knowledge sharing and empowerment. Welcome you, sir. Thank you all.
I'll turn off you. Very good morning to each and every one of you. Greetings. I'm extremely delighted to be here today to share with you some thoughts on the topic which you already know, the vanishing art of lecturing. Now, why did I call this vanishing? Today it is considered fashionable not to attend lectures. I am so grateful you have come. It is even more fashionable not to give lectures because we consider lecturing as something that is no longer existent today, not relevant today. And I have called this art. Why did I call this an art? Because things that are close to the heart will become an art. If lecture has to become an art, then your heart has to go into it. So this session is also going to see how you can put your heart into a lecture. Lecture, 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 lecture. What is the echo that you get? Torture, 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 torture. Willingly will you ever come and sit and listen to a lecture unless there is a compulsion, an obligation, some pressure, some requirement. Otherwise, I'm sure you would not have come. You would have wondered 100 times whether I should come and sit in this lecture, 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 lecture. So it is in that context that this session is to provoke you, to make you think, and let us together journey in this endeavor to make lectures more effective. It was the Canadian author Stephen Leacock who said, and most of us share that thought, most people tire of a lecture in 10 minutes. Clever people can get tired in 5 minutes. Sensible people never go to lectures at all. I am not saying you are not sensible, but you have come. I am grateful to you for that. But please remember, no one willingly will attend a lecture. Given a choice, you will not go. Why has this happened? And that is what we are going to see very carefully. When you look at lecture, I will start with a definition. Lecture is uninterrupted, rambling exposition of apparently irrelevant, trivial information delivered in a sleep-inducing monotone for 1 hour. To most of us, this is a lecture. You go on talking and talking and talking on trivial matters in a sleep-inducing monotone. And this definition of a lecture is very true because most of us have experienced it. Usually it's uninterrupted. You will say, when I give a lecture, don't disturb me. Don't interrupt me. If you have any questions, ask at the end. The end may never come. That's a different issue. But uninterrupted. Then rambling exposition of irrelevant, trivial information. When you give a lecture, what do? You talk the remote things, the out of the way things, the footnotes, things which are not easily accessible. You want to impress people, you want to show off. I know this much. You don't know. So you don't talk fundamental things. You will talk trivia. You will talk out of the way things just to impress people. So you talk trivial things and you deliver it in a most boring way. And that is why we say lecture is almost synonymous with torture. Especially so because when you are at the wrong end of the lecture, what is the wrong end of the lecture? Where you are. I am in the right end. Receiving end of the lecture is the wrong end. Terrible to be. And I am really grateful to you. You have decided to come and be at the wrong end. I will try to make that experience a little better for you. When you look back at all the teachers who taught you in your life, starting from school till today, you can classify all teachers, all lecturers into one of these three. First is the confusion master. I used a big word, obfuscator. Obfuscator means confusion master. When this teacher spoke, you got more confused than clarified. Why did this teacher speak to me? At the end of it, the subject is more confusing. The teacher's intention was not to confuse you. He was very well read, erudite scholar, but when he spoke, he tended to confuse you, not to simplify things, did not make things with clarity. There was no clarity in his presentation. The second type of teacher is who faithfully regurgitates whatever is there. Regurgitator, whatever is there, the talking textbook. Everything is very faithfully, yours faithfully presented. Here again the teacher fails. You feel what a waste of time. I can read all this, I can find all this. Why should I sit in a lecture and listen? So the teacher fails. The really effective teacher, lecturer, is what I call a facilitator. When we give a lecture, we should gravitate towards facilitation. We should make an obvious and a very compulsive effort to not be obfuscators and regurgitators. If you gravitate towards facilitation, your lecture becomes effective. And what does this mean? That is what I am going to share with you. I am going to start with this word lecturalgia, something which has been in the literature since 2001. What is lecturalgia? We have heard of myalgia, arthralgia. Algia means pain. So painful lecture, that means what? It is the disease experienced by members of lectured to audience. All of you will be suffering from this over a period of time. I don't want you to suffer, but I am just telling you, generally when you go on inflicting lecture after lecture after lecture after lecture, you will suffer from certain symptoms and signs. What are those symptoms and signs? Agitation, frustration, anger. But there is a risk involved. Big man is talking, some risk is there, so you can't express your anger, you can't show your frustration, you can't be agitated. Most of the time what we do, we'll attend a lecture, apathy. Anyway we have to go, we'll go and sit. At least we can sleep, apathy. You go with a lot of reluctance, skepticism. So we go with apathy. And most powerful effect of lecture, most of us know, is sleep. If not anything else, the most powerful effect of lecture, I tell you, the most important effect of a lecture is sleep. You don't need, if somebody says I suffer from insomnia, I don't get sleep, I always say don't take any sleeping tablet, don't take any sedative. All that you do is listen to a lecture. If you listen to a lecture, you are more likely to fall asleep than any other method. So it is often said sleep and lecture are very closely connected. We all know this. Even if you don't want to, after some time, some of you will fall asleep. And this happens to all of us. Please remember this close link between lecture and sleep. Sleep is inevitable consequence of lecture, especially when you are at the wrong end. Why lecture? Lecture if you must. Lecture to inspire and influence. Third and only third, to inform. Unfortunately, what do we do in a lecture? We do the reverse. We try to give information, information, information. We rarely influence, never inspire. And then you feel, I had enough of this. No more lectures. This is the feeling we have. So please remember, I've shown this in the font size. The most important effect, if you are not going to inspire and influence by your lecture, do not lecture, don't just inform. It's a waste of time. Your lecture becomes ineffective. The purpose of a lecture is to transform rather than just inform. When you look at lecture as an instructional method, we will now very quickly see what is the definition as against other methods of teaching. We will look at certain misconceptions about lecture, and then we will look at simple applicable guidelines, things which you can apply today. When you go back to work, you can apply. I am not going to tell you anything that you did not know. I am only going to give you a format and a shape for you to understand. Lecture, in contrast to all other methods of teaching and learning, seminar, tutorial, practical, project, so many things are there. The one unique feature of a lecture is the teacher has a chance to interact with a large number of students. Teacher-student ratio is heavily weighted in favor of students. Large number of students, one teacher. Resource-wise, human resource-wise, very effective, but most ineffective in terms of learning. So this is the one teaching learning strategy where one teacher can attempt to reach out, as happens now. Large number of you. All other methods require 15 students to one teacher, seminar, tutorial, practical, whereas in a lecture, 200, 300, no problem, one teacher is enough. Convenient, human resource effective, but most ineffective in terms of learning. Please remember that. Having said that, what are the common misconceptions about lecture? The first myth about lecture is covering information is lecturing. We all often think you have to give a lecture, I have to cover this, 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 I have to cover this. Finally, your lecture becomes only covering information. The first myth about lecturing, do not equate covering of information to teaching. I'll come back to this when I give the guidelines. Second, speech making is often equated with instruction. Speech making is for the politician. Politician will come and give a speech. He is not worried, people are coming in, people are going out, they are not listening, they don't understand, they are gossiping. It doesn't matter, he will give a speech. That is for the politician. But as an instructor, as a teacher, you are vitally concerned. Are you with me? Do you understand what I am saying? At least something what I am saying. That concern and care is there, and that is why don't equate speech making with instruction. No questions means understanding. You lecture for 60 minutes and then ask, any questions? Will anybody dare ask a question? What will happen? If you ask a question, I'll start my lecture again. And then what will happen to you? Everybody will pounce on you later and say, why do you have to ask him the question at the end of that lecture? He started his lecture again. That is the end of our tea time or break time or friendship time. Nobody will ask a question. No questions means we often say understanding. Oh, you understood. No. No questions means we had enough of you, get lost. They may not say so, but that is reality. The real feeling that is deep down is, you please get lost. We had enough of you. So no questions does not mean understanding. No questions means we had enough of you. Go. Pleased group reaction is learning. Today it is fashionable to conduct feedback, anonymous student feedback. You take a good feedback and say, oh, my students have given me a good feedback, so much they learned. Good feedback doesn't mean students have learned. Good feedback means students are very kind. They are very polite. They are very nice. They are very respectful. They don't want to hurt you. Good feedback means the goodness of the students. That's all. It doesn't mean they have learned. So don't equate a good feedback to learning. Then comes the very important one, academic success is often equated with teaching skill. Very important. Today, particularly in the context of research, we often equate academic success with teaching skill. What does this mean? This means that intellectual achievement or pedagogic ability, that means whom do you appoint as teachers in a university? Top ranker, gold medalist, topmost student in the class, comes through the interview, gets selected. He or she cannot teach. He can teach for nuts. I have nothing against. I am just telling you, the best learner is not necessarily the best teacher. Please remember this. The best learner is not necessarily the best teacher. Why do we say this? Because, as it has been said, the best learners often make the worst teachers. They may become obfuscators. They may become regurgitators. He may have excellent credentials as a student, but when he speaks, he is not able to come down to the level of the students. So that is why it is said the best learners often make the worst teachers. They are, in a very real sense, perceptually challenged. They cannot imagine what it must be like to struggle to learn something that came so easily to them. Please remember this. I am not saying don't appoint the best student, but also check their ability to teach. The person who is the best learner need not necessarily be the best teacher. All of us know this because they are at a different wavelength. They are at a different level, and they can never often come down to the level of the ordinary student who is struggling to study the basic concepts. First one is guidelines. When we look, what are the guidelines for giving an effective lecture? First is don't be complete. I had a professor, Elizabeth, my professor of anatomy. She used to come to class and say, what is not covered in the class, my dear students, will be covered in the examination. We used to laugh. Hey, what is this? She used to repeatedly say, my dear students, this is the book you have to read. I expect that you will read this book. But please remember, what is not covered in the class will be covered in the examination. Examination came and there were questions about which she never spoke in the class. When we went to her, she said, here it is in the book. She says, I am here to show you the way. You have to do the running. You have to do the reading. You have to do the sprinting. You have to do the learning. I am only going to give you my perspective and approach. I am not here to tell you everything. What you must know is here, you are accountable to the book. I am accountable to the book. I am here to simplify things, to give you a concept. So the first simple guideline, impossible for many, many teachers. Because they say, I have to cover this, I have to cover this, I have to complete this, I have to tell this. Everything you want to tell, it is always covering, covering. There is no uncovering at all. And this is the first very difficult guideline when you give a lecture. No lecture should ever claim to be complete. You cannot be complete. Accept that fact. Tell them that. Tell your students, I am not here to tell you everything. I am here to give you my perspective, my viewpoint. That's the first guideline, don't be complete. If something is important, repeat it, reinforce it, reiterate, recollect. If something must be remembered, repeat it. That is why it is said, tell them what you are going to say it, tell them what you have said. The hallmark of a teacher who is effective is that there is repetition and reinforcement of important concepts. Unfortunately, we want to cover all the portion, and in our effort to cover all the portion, in our effort to be complete, we have no time to repeat. So this is actually linked to the first guideline. If you free yourself of a little time, you will get more time to focus on what is important. And I had a professor, Professor Krishnan Kutty. He came to class one day. He was talking about a condition in the heart. He said, for mitral stenosis, mitral valve is there in the heart. And he said, Professor Krishnan Kutty said, there are 5 causes for mitral stenosis. First cause, rheumatic carditis. Second cause, rheumatic carditis. Third cause, rheumatic carditis. Fourth cause, rheumatic carditis. Fifth cause, rheumatic carditis. We looked at him, something wrong. He said, no, no, no. I am telling you, there are 10 causes. But of the 10 causes, this one cause happens almost always in India. And you as students should know this one cause. I'll repeat this one cause 5 times. I'm not going to list all the 10 causes which is there in your book. Go and see your book. That's not important. More important for me to tell you in this lecture, I have the freedom to tell you that this one cause I will tell 5 times so that you'll remember this. That is the advantage a lecture has. A textbook doesn't have. Textbook has to be complete. A lecturer can say there are 10 causes, but this one cause is most important. I will repeat it 5 times. That is what is the power of repetition and reinforcement. That is Professor Krishnan Kutty. Don't restate, create. We don't want teachers to be regurgitators, simply vomit whatever is there in the textbook. We want them to express differently in their own way. I recall another professor of mine, Professor Jayanti Ramarao. First thing I have to tell you, Professor Jayanti Ramarao. Jayanti is a man. It so happens that he was named as a man. Anyway, Jayanti Ramarao. Now, Jayanti Ramarao one day came to class, and we were a few clinical students in the outpatient, and he told us, please come. And then he brought one patient. The patient had a back problem. So the patient was put on the couch, made to sit there. And then Jayanti Ramarao said, all of you stand back. All of you stand back and look at me. Me means look at Jayanti Ramarao. And he said, when the British ruled India, they were lords. And then he walked like this. We laughed at this buffoon. What is this, Professor Jayanti Ramarao? He said, please watch me very carefully. When the British ruled India, they were lords. And he walked like this. And then he said, backward bending of the spine is lordosis. Lordosis. When the British ruled India, they were lords. And they walked with backward bending of the spine. The patient who was sitting there was then asked to walk. Patient had a back problem. So the patient walked like this. Patient had a back problem. And he said, this patient is not a lord, but he has got lordosis. When British ruled India, they did not have lordosis, but they were lords. Till today, I have not forgotten what is lordosis. I laughed at that professor. Today, he is dead and gone, 45 years ago. He lives in me forever. He made us laugh. In that laughter, there was learning. He felt that at the end of all this, if my students at least remember what is lordosis, and he will look at the way I walked, and he will remember lordosis, that's enough for him. That was his concern and care. This is creativity. He need not have done this. A textbook doesn't give you this opportunity. A teacher, when he comes alive, the living, loving teacher can bring the class alive. And that is creativity. Creativity will come only when you have that concern and care for your students. Please remember that. What is meant by creativity? Now we look closely at what is creativity. A teacher can be useful. A teacher may not be useful. I hope there is no teacher who is not useful. This is the utility axis. Then there is the vertical axis. I call this the novelty axis, where the teacher can be interesting, not interesting. And you can broadly have 4 quadrants. Because of this, because of the 2 axes, we can have 4 quadrants. We have the first one here, a teacher who is not useful, not novel. I hope no teacher is there in this university anywhere who is not useful and not novel. But for the sake of completing the quadrants, I introduce him as the old goat. Pardon me for saying this, could be young goat also, but the person who is not useful or not novel has no role. So we will not speak anything about it. Nobody is in that category. A large number of our teachers become bore, pedantic, very well read, erudite scholar. But when I go to his class, bore, I can't sit through, pedantic bore. Very useful, high on that axis, but not interesting, bore. That word comes boring. Then comes charlatan, mesmerizer, trickster. He will do all drama and circus, but no subject. What did he speak? I don't know. He did so many things. Charlatan. Never, never, ever be this. Don't try to cover up your subject with all the gimmicks that you do. Then comes the creative teacher. Who is the creative teacher? The creative teacher is one who presents useful information in an interesting way, like my professor Jayanti Ramarao or my professor Krishnan Kutty, who presented information but presented in their own unique styles. That is creativity. So if you ask me what is creativity, creativity is a combination of utility and novelty. High in utility, high in novelty. That is what will distinguish the great teacher from the ordinary teacher. Everybody can become a teacher, but if you want to be the extraordinary teacher, move towards creativity. Every one of your so-called effective teachers in your life have been creative in their own way. They left a mark on you. They left you with your heart thumping because they did something so personal, so unique that you felt there is something. That is the hallmark of a great teacher. First one, don't be complete. Second one, don't mention anything once. What am I doing now? I'm repeating. Pardon me, I'm not doubting your ability to remember, but I feel it's so important that I have to repeat and reinforce. Don't restate, create. That's the third guideline. Simple, not that you didn't know all this. I'm only giving it a skeleton and a structure. Don't confess, profess. Assistant professor, associate professor, professor. The word professor is very interesting. Profess means you believe in something. It is so much part of you. You are so enthusiastic about it. Very often we come to class and say, the topic I am taking today is a very boring topic. It is very abstract. Much has been written about it. 40 pages are there in a book. And even though I have read it over last 20 years, I have not understood much, but I have to speak because this is there in your syllabus. And you may be asked questions also, so you must know. You come here totally disinterested and you say it is an abstract topic, very difficult. I myself did not understand. And what will you think? This man, this professor has not understood. Poor me, where am I going to understand? Don't confess, profess means when you teach as if that's the most important thing in the world. You believe in it with authority, with aplomb, with gusto. You should speak and you live it. Enthusiasm. If you ask me one word, it is enthusiasm. If you are not enthusiastic about your subject, how do you enthuse your students? That is what it means. Don't confess. No wonder the word professor, assistant, profess, because you profess it. So you should profess it. Enthusiasm is the key. If you're not enthusiastic, never ever teach and ruin the lives of your students. Don't extemporize, organize. We often say, I have 23 years experience. I can simply walk into class and talk. You can walk and you can talk, but you will become an obfuscator or you will become a regurgitator. Spend your time organizing. One of the former presidents of the United States, Woodrow Wilson, he was asked to give a lecture. He asked, how long do you want me to lecture? If you want me to lecture for 5 minutes, give me 1 month time to prepare. If you want me to lecture for 15 minutes, give me 15 days time. If my lecture has no time limit, I'm ready. We are all like that, teachers, full. Simply start, go on and on and on and on and on and on, and you can't stop. It is more difficult to give the short speech. When you give that 1 hour lecture, you are condensing it. You are giving it in a way, in a nutshell, so that a student is able to assimilate and understand. And that is why it is said, don't extemporize, organize. Now you may wonder, why am I giving you guidelines negatively? Don't be complete. Don't mention anything once. Don't restate, create. Don't. Why? I could have said do. The human mind understands negative messages better. No parking. Yeah. Yes parking. I have never seen any board which says yes parking. It all, no parking, we understand. Yes parking, you become suspicious. Some trick is there. Something. The human mind understands negative messages better. A boy went to school and that the teacher asked, first day in class, what is your name? And the boy said, my name is Johnny Don't. What? Teacher said, what is your name? Can you repeat? Johnny Don't. Johnny Don't. Yes. In his home, when he went to the right, mother said, Johnny Don't. When he went to the left, mother said, Johnny Don't. If he picked up something, mother said, Johnny Don't. So he thought his name is Johnny Don't. We live in this world of don't. So we understand don't message is better. When we say do, you become suspicious. Hey, some trick is there. I'm going to be trapped. So, pardon me, my reason for giving negative is that there is enough telling you what to do. If you don't do these, your lecture will bloom and blossom. That is what I wanted to tell you. So that's why I'm presenting it negatively. When you give a lecture, as against all other methods of teaching and learning, lecture is the most difficult because you'll fall asleep. You have to break the monotony. How do you break the monotony? Give a break. When you watch a TV serial or a cricket match or a football match, suddenly one advertisement comes. breaking the monotony. When you give a lecture, no time. You have to go full blast. Don't look here and there. No time. I have to go and finish my portion. This is what happens. Can't you give 1 or 2 breaks in a 60-minute presentation? Break could be in the form of a question. Or suddenly you can show. I'll give you an example of how to break the monotony. Not break the anatomy, break the monotony. True or false? If you know it, you can teach it. Is it true or false? What do you think? It's just because you know something, can you teach? Yes or no? Not necessarily. You may know something, but you may not be effective in teaching. You might become a regurgitator, you might become an obfuscator. So just because you know something. Unfortunately, our university system, once you have your degree, overnight you're appointed teacher. Till yesterday you were a learner. Overnight you become a teacher and your roles change, and you have not been trained for that. At least in school, there is a training to become a school teacher. In a college level, in a university, you are a student till yesterday, you get your master's, you get your PhD, overnight you become assistant professor. And then you start teaching. You have no idea what's the difference between teaching and learning. You have been at the receiving end, now you start doing things at the giving end. Good teachers are born, not made. Is it true or false? Have you not heard this? He's a born teacher. When he came out of his mother's womb, he was fantastic teacher. Father, great teacher. Mother, great teacher. Son, fantastic teacher. Does it happen? Why do you say, is there a gene for good teaching? Is there a gene for good teaching? Till today, they have not found any gene for good teaching. There might be gene for diabetes, for joint disease, all sorts of things. But till today, they have not found any gene for good teaching. Good teaching is an acquired skill. It is not genetic. It is not hereditary. You should be doing genetic engineering if you want to, if you think it has got a genetic basis. Till today, we have not found any gene. So please remember, good teachers are born, not made. This is actually only an expression. It's not really true. Faculty teach content, not the students. You teach the subject. You don't teach your subjects. What's the difference? Concern, care, love, consideration. Are you with me? That will happen only when you are a real teacher, the living, loving teacher. I am not so much concerned about teaching my subject. I am concerned about teaching my subjects, my students. Their concern and care will only be with that living, loving teacher, not a textbook, not anything on the net. Please remember that. So this is true. Very often, teachers, I'm not saying always, but very often, teachers teach content, not the students. Silence in the classroom indicates learning. We take pride in saying, when I take class, there is pin drop silence like this. It's frightening. It is very scary. Why do people keep silent in the classroom? I say 3 S's. One is sleep. All are sleeping. No problem. Silence in the classroom means people are sleeping. Second reason why people are silent in a classroom. You scare them. I'll show you in the examination. You terrify them. You frighten them and say, I'll show you. We threaten them. So first is sleep. It's the most harmless. I feel if somebody is sleeping, I'm very happy, relaxed, enjoy. At least you are able to relax, fine, sleep. Second is scare. Third one is the most terrible. We as teachers often do this. Third is sarcasm. To control the class, we use sarcasm. Hit that student, lower the self-esteem of the student, humiliate a student, because we want to control. Today we cannot use physical abuse. We use emotional abuse. We hurt them. We abuse them emotionally. Sarcasm, powerful, hit them. That poor student will feel so humiliated. Never again that student will make noise. We teachers take pride in causing hurt, emotional hurt in our students. And then there is silence, and you take pride in saying, when I take class, there is pin drop silence. You must be ashamed when in a class there is no noise. I want healthy noise. I want students to respond, to make that healthy noise. So silence in the classroom is not something that you should take pride in. So we have seen now what are the guidelines. First is don't be complete. Second, don't mention anything once, repeat, reinforce, reiterate. Third, don't restate, create. Don't confess, profess. Whatever it is, with enthusiasm, with gusto, with aplomb, convey. Spend your time on how you are going to present, not so much on what. When you have to give a lecture, you decide what I have to say, what I have to say. No, decide how I am going to put it across. Also decide what not to speak. Decide what to speak, and then how. Spend as much time on how you will put it across. Be a little different from a textbook. You just don't be a talking textbook. You must be speaking about things that will enthuse them, that will entertain and educate. Don't give a monologue, break the monotony. Give 1 or 2 breaks in a 60-minute presentation. Then comes the 7th and the last. Do what Sunil Gavaskar did. Don't exceed the time. Most of us find it very difficult to stop. I am also aware of that. Don't exceed the time. When you have been assigned a certain time, stop before that. What did Sunil Gavaskar do? He retired from Test cricket. Sunil Gavaskar was India's opening batsman in the 1980s. He retired when he was at the peak of his career. He scored well in both the innings, and overnight we saw in the newspaper, those days we didn't have other methods of communication. So we read in the paper, Sunil Gavaskar retires from Test cricket. Everybody asked, why are you retiring? You can still open India's batting for the next 5 years. But he retired when people asked, why? Not, why are you not retiring? Similarly, when you give a lecture, end the lecture when people ask, why did you stop? Not, why are you not stopping? Have you ever at the end of a lecture felt why the fellow stopped? No. You are happy. Ah, Rabba, such a relief, the fellow has stopped. They clap, oh, finished. Because people are applauding because the lecture has ended, not because the lecture is good. Please remember, when I give a lecture, I accept that people look at their watch. But what I do not tolerate is when they look at it, raise it to their ear to find out the watch has stopped. Watch has stopped. This fellow is not stopping. This is the situation. So these are all indicators that it's high time you stop. I'm also aware I have to stop very soon. So what is a lecture? Ultimately, a lecture is this. If a lecture has to be effective, it has to be lively, it should be educative, it should be novel or creative, it should provoke thinking. You're not giving all the answers, make them go and read. It should kindle the interest, not kill the interest. It should be understandable. You should reach out to the majority who are listening. It should be relevant. They must see the relevance of it. And I'm not saying it should be entertainment, but there is an element of enjoyment that must come. Have you ever enjoyed a lecture? Never, almost never. You can almost count the lectures which you have enjoyed. So enjoyment, is it possible? If you can't don't lecture, do other things. Don't waste your time and everybody's time by giving a lecture. We often hear this power corrupts, but I am telling you today, it is PowerPoint which has absolutely, totally and completely corrupted the lecture. Today we think PowerPoint is there, no. Yes, it is there, no. That is where the problem is, because we have abused lecturing, because we depend entirely on the PowerPoint. We are also murderers. We have caused death of the lecture by PowerPoint. Most people fear lectures because they have had enough of lecture, no more. That's why they say it's torture, and this is not my usage. There's an article, Death by PowerPoint, how teachers have abused PowerPoint and converted the lecture into a most miserable experience for students. There are some simple tips I want to share with you. Whenever you make a presentation, maybe a research topic, maybe you're teaching, whatever it is, simple guidelines I want you to understand when you give a lecture and you use the PowerPoint. I have used all those guidelines. First one, you must look at legibility, and simple. I'm not telling you anything complex. When you present on the PowerPoint, 2 things you take care: legibility and simplicity. What do you mean by legibility? Now, if you look at font, if you see serif font. There are two types of font. Serif means tail, tapering. If you look at Times New Roman, most popularly used for all our correspondence, Times New Roman. This is okay for our typing, correspondence, letters and all that. But for PowerPoint projection, it is not so great because it has got tapering ends, reading is not so easy. For PowerPoint presentation, the recommended fonts are sans. Sans means without the tail. So that is equally more or less broad. And sans serif fonts are Arial. See, look at that. It doesn't have the tapering ends, no tails. Verdana, Comic Sans, Helvetica. I have used mostly Comic Sans here. But what I'm saying is, when you use PowerPoint fonts, please select sans serif without the tapering and the tail, because it's better to read, easier to read, and people can see clearly what you are projecting. This is okay for documentation and letters, that is Times New Roman, but recommendation is sans serif. The size, you should make sure that you always target 200 people. Don't say that it's very small, you can't read. Heading should be at least 40 points. Minimum font size should be at least 30 points. Now, if you use small fonts and then say, I know people behind cannot read, I will read it for you. Why are you projecting? Why are you projecting that? If you use very decorative fonts, it may look very decorative, but it's very difficult to read. The purpose of projection is for people to read clearly and well. If that is so, don't use complicated fonts. Letter case, if you use all capital letters, it's not easy to read. Please remember that. Once in a way, it's okay, but to the extent possible, you should use running letters. Lowercase letters makes it easier to read. So these are simple things. I'm not telling you anything you did not know. I'm just sharing with you some thoughts. Please follow the rule of 6. 6 lines per slide, 6 words per line. Most of my slides which I have shown you, I have maintained that. I have not exceeded. The words are there and you speak about it. I don't read, and that is why it is important. When you look at color, if you use a blue background, which I have done, it's reasonably good. The text can be white or yellow. Sometimes you can have a black background, then again you can have white or yellow text. You can also have, most corporate presentations are white background. The problem with white is, continuously if you have a white background, it can be very glaring. It can be hurting on your eyes. So that's the only thing, but the advantage is that you have the option of 4 colors. You have the option of 4 colors. Be aware, colors on the LCD projection screen may not be the same as seen on your laptop or computer, which means you must project and see whether the color that is projected is the same as what you are seeing on the screen. We see a beautiful color on the screen, but when you project, you say, oh, this is not the color I wanted. This is bad background, and you cannot read. When you put a very impressive background, you cannot read what is being written there. Look at this. There is no purpose served. What are you attempting to show? Is it the background or the content? Please be aware, these are not good things to do. Simplicity means you must also not read your slide. When I made a presentation, I was never reading the slide. For example, we often do this. This slide contains too many words for a presentation. It is not written in point form, making it difficult for your audience to read and for you to present each point. In short, your audience will spend too much time trying to read this paragraph instead of listening to you. What did I do now? I simply read. Anybody can do this. Why should you read and waste everybody's time? If you are using PowerPoint, use only key words. Talk about it. Don't talk the PowerPoint. Don't talk to the PowerPoint. Talk about what is on the PowerPoint. That is the power of PowerPoint. Not to write everything and read. You can as well read the notes. Why are you reading there and making everybody struggle to read that? So use only key words. Avoid complicated graphs, tables, and abbreviations. Look at this. Is there any meaning in showing? Whom are you going to impress? You want to show off. I know this much. You don't know. Is that? This may look beautiful in a textbook. It has no place in a PowerPoint presentation. You cannot read anything. This is just to show off your big head that I know this much. You can't. You know, you have to simplify. That is your skill. Don't lift diagrams and pictures straight from your textbook and then project. It makes no meaning. You must simplify it. If you can show things like this, it just shows the stupidity with which you, because nobody can read this. Whom are you going to impress? Or showing a table. You simply lift tables from a textbook. These tables are good in a textbook, but you pick up those things that are relevant and show only those. Don't show everything. Please remember, slideshow, there must be a presentation of slides. Please decide how the information is displayed. What does that mean? I showed you the slide earlier. Fonts. I didn't show everything together. When I presented this slide, what did I do? I said there is something called serif, and then I explained. Then I said there is sans serif, and then I went on showing you what are the sans serif. This is what is called as progressive disclosure. If you show everything, you are showing, now look at the first point. What are you doing? You are reading the lower points. Very often, we show everything and then say, now concentrate on the first point. All the more reason people will start reading what is below. If you have to present one at a time, let there be progressive disclosure. That is, one at a time it is shown. So presentation of slides, please decide how information is displayed. That is called progressive disclosure, and how each slide moves. When the slide moves, we often see sometimes in some presentations, the next slide comes from the right, next one comes from the left, next one comes from the top, another one comes from below, and then you are wondering, hey, next one will come from where? From behind us. So you are more concerned about from where the slide will come. So keep all that constant. Don't keep changing that. Please remember, build and transition should be uniform for the entire slideshow. There is no strict number on the number of slides. A slide should not last more than 30 to 60 seconds. If more, please split it. Remember, you and content should be center stage. Slide is only there, it's an aid. You should take the center stage. Nothing can replace you, the presenter. Avoid distractions. What do you mean by distractions? We sometimes see presentations where two screens are there. Say I want two screens. One screen will show all temples. It will show their travelogue, all their travel, and another slide will show something else. What is the purpose of that? Is it to show off your travel? You show all sorts of architecture, all sorts of things irrelevant. You show half the slide and another half is. That is not the purpose of a presentation. It is to drive home a point, then use no distractions. Avoid apologies. You say, this slide is very crowded. Sorry for the mistake. Why are you coming and publicly apologizing? Don't use those slides. You come and say it's a very busy slide. You cannot read from there. Then why are you showing it? So only if everybody in the audience can read, show it. Otherwise, don't show it. Don't come and apologize and say, oh, I'm very sorry, this slide you cannot read. Use pointer only when needed. We have the tendency to hold this pointer and then you go on swinging it and you are worried now when this fellow is going to put the laser pointer on your eye. Pointer is used only when necessary, when you want to point something. Otherwise, leave the pointer alone. You are threatening people with this laser, you go on showing, don't do that. Please use pointer only when necessary. Use animations, transitions and colors judiciously. Please remember that 10, 20, 30 rule. 10 slides, 20 minutes, 30 minimum font size. Simple. And more important, remember the 3 diseases. What is called PowerPoint stress disorder. All of us have suffered from this. Continuous bombardment of PowerPoint slides. Lights are off, PowerPoint slide after slide after slide after slide after slide. And then you get this PowerPoint stress disorder. Then there is something called PowerPoint phobia. Some people will develop phobia. Oh, PowerPoint. No, I don't want to come. And such a relief when a student sees somebody using the writing board. And then, of course, we are all, in a way, we find we are powerless when there is no PowerPoint. So please be aware of these diseases. Please remember at the end of it all, the best visual aid is you, the living, loving teacher. I'm going to conclude with a simple experiment. An experiment that captured all that I have told you in this session. And that experiment is to share with you and to decide whether the lecture is dead. Are we going to say the lecture is dead, or can the lecture be resurrected, revived and reactivate it. We will take that call after I show you that experiment. Please may I have the lights. Lights, all the lights on. Lights, please. Yeah, that's fine. To decide whether the lecture is dead, I'm going to share with you something which I want you to remember for the rest of your life. All of us have seen this in the chemistry lab. We have seen it in different laboratory, the reagent bottle. Now the reagent bottle is the student. Who is the student? Student is like a reagent bottle. Why? Narrow neck. Comes and sits there. Lot of skepticism, reluctance. I have to go either for attendance sake or some requirement, compulsion. Student comes with a narrow neck, unwilling to receive. So that's why the reagent bottle is shown. Then comes the teacher. Where is the teacher? Teacher is here. The beaker. See, this is the beaker. Teacher. Teacher has attended seminar series, Vanishing Art of Lecturing. What has he been told? The teacher is the beaker. Teacher has been told, don't be complete. Your subject is very big. So this much is there. This much subject is there. But you have been told, don't be complete. So what do? You only take this much. Only this much. Because they have been told, no, don't be complete. And then you go and give a lecture. Useless fellow, who gave you admission? Are you not interested? Go and do businessman. Why are you? The student collapses. Patak. What is the problem? Teacher intention was good. I didn't teach everything. I simply dumped. This is what we do as teachers. We dump information. And the poor student, he simply collapses. What is the problem? Why did anything? We often say nothing has gone into your head. Do you have a head at all? Anything has gone in. What's the problem here? What's the problem? What is the problem? Why nothing went inside? There is a lid. Opening the lid. We never open the mind of the student. We never open the mind of the student. We don't tell them the relevance. We never open the lid. Opening the lid means opening the mind. They see the relevance. They don't see the context. When they don't see the context, they will not be able to receive. The first step for a teacher is to open the mind. Open the mind means making it safe. No sarcasm, no fear. Make them ready to receive. So you do that. You have opened the lid and then you dump information. What has happened now? There is a problem. Something has gone in little better. See, something has gone in. But again the student collapsed. Why? Because, as you see, when you have a child at home, a young child, very small child, how will you feed that child? One spoon at a time, little by little. The child is shown the moon. You will sing, you will dance. The child will not know the child is eating. But when it comes to a student, you simply dump. Will you ever take food and thrust it down your child's throat? You will never do that. Because you have care, concern, love. That same care, concern, and love for your student must be there. If you really care for your student, you will, with love, with care, with compassion, with consideration, are you with me? Little by little, with love, with care. This is the heart of a teacher. If you really have some concern for your student, you will do this, little by little, with love, with care. You can also do something to facilitate this transfer. Now I have transferred this. Can I do something to facilitate? What can I use to transfer? Can I use something? Yes, I can use a funnel. This funnel is your PowerPoint, audio visual. I'm using funnel now. Now I'm going to use the funnel. I'm using the funnel. Now the orifice has become even narrower. Whatever little was going also will not go. You see this? This is what we do. When you abuse the PowerPoint, it is an inverted funnel. Let us, if we use PowerPoint, I'm not saying you decide not to use, it's fine. But if you decide to use, any visual aid like PowerPoint, please use the PowerPoint properly, judiciously, relevantly. Then your transfer becomes easier. It will facilitate learning. If you have forgotten everything I've told you, if you remember this experiment, I think I have achieved what I wanted to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. If any of the faculties have any question to ask, sir, quickly. Any feedback or comments?
Good morning, sir. Myself, Dr. Anu, I'm from Biotechnology Department. I'm very happy and I'm very thankful to listen to you, sir. It was an excellent lecture. Anyway, that applause was not because please end the lecture. It was really we are very thankful to you. And again, I think the way you explain things, even now we could understood what is lordosis. And again, we were not getting the lecturalgia because of the way you delivered it in a very, like we enjoyed it a lot and we got the points also. Thank you very much, sir.
Hello, sir. How do we monitor and the feedback? How much the student received? How can we test it?
May not be a true reflection of learning. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Yes. So only when you assess, when you conduct a formative, ideal is formative assessment. Formative assessment is, as you are aware, so much has been said about it, where there is no threat. A student, the assessment for learning, as it is called, that's the best way to assess the learning.
Sir, I was also a participant.
Oh, yeah.
So now give me an advice what to do next.
No, it is not.
I have the slides already prepared. They will all start telling, answer is, times no one, 5 times. And how many of you are going to put your resignation now as a lecturer? Wonderful lecture, sir. If I could have listened to you, my slide could have been better. So I confess, you will see all the mistake which you mentioned in my slides. But next time when I come, I will. So on behalf of the participants being here, excellent talk for receiving and hopefully eye-opener for the lecturers how to go before the students. Thank you.
Sir, I have one observation and suggestion to all of us here. One of the problems that I always see with college and university teachers, and you mentioned about it, and you were already trained as part of the Indira Gandhi National Open University's PG Diploma in Higher Education. I heard that when the teacher was introducing yourself to us. I think, as you said, many of us teachers come straight from the class to the lecturership or the associate professorship. I think we need in India a change. We need some kind of a, course like the B.Ed for the school teachers, a compulsory program on teaching methods for the teachers. I would suggest that in this forum. And I believe voluntarily all of us teachers could take the Indira Gandhi National Open University postgraduate diploma in higher education, which is very good. And one of the other methods was the UGC HRDCs. The name has changed recently. Many of the orientation programs are not working effectively. They are all attended just for the namesake and conducted for the namesake. So I think we need a restructuring of that as well. Thank you, sir.
The UGC orientation program is primarily intended for empowering you with those skills for teaching. Unfortunately, as you said, it is not often meeting its requirements.
Sir, anybody? Yeah. One last question.
Professor, my name is Dr. Prasad from Sociology Department. Actually, this was a wonderful lecture and really needed one. But still, I am confused about the last part. In your demonstration, you were trying to present the student as an ideal one who is not affected of the recent trends that is happening in our contemporary world. Like they are open to several AI tools, techniques, and they, in a way they are more technically upgraded than a teacher. So in our practical contemporary scenario, as a teacher, we have to address these things. For example, when you go to attend your students and give a lecture, first thing what I personally face is that they have so many other options to gain the knowledge rather than me. So how to address those dimensions? For example, they are living in a world of AI where we are not upgraded to that level and they are more technically skilled than us. So they have more opportunities or abilities. So how to address those dimensions while as a lecturer you give lectures to students?
You have to keep in mind the learners today. Learners today are very different from how we were as learners. And the sooner we become aware of that, the better it is. So bring technology. You try to use something, tell them to bring the mobile phones. You use, there is something called Kahoot. There is something called Poll Everywhere. Several things you can use in the classroom. We often say, don't bring mobile phone, don't use mobile phone. You say, come on, bring your mobile phone. That poll, we have seen, all of you have seen this, where you have the audience poll. Make the audience poll. Get them involved. Our willingness to walk with them, I think, will make the difference. If you're going to do it the same old way, they're not going to listen. We have to be alert and aware, and most important, we must be willing to experiment. We may make mistakes, but still it is worth experimenting.
Thank you, sir, for the session. Now, I request Professor Dr. C.C. Harilal, Dean, Faculty of Science, to present the memento to our speaker of the first technical session.